Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at something I think is super interesting, um, and that's the connection between art and kids' emotions.
Okay.
You know how people always say that art is like a window into the soul?
hmm
Well, we're going to be looking at how that applies specifically to children and how we can use art to better understand and support their emotional well-being.
Yeah, it's fascinating how much kids can express through art even before they have the words to tell us what they're feeling.
Right,
It's
exactly.
like their own special language.
And it's a language that we as adults can learn to understand and appreciate.
Absolutely. And by tuning into their artistic expressions, we can gain valuable insights into their inner world, their joys, their fears, their worries.
So it's like those crayon drawings on the fridge are more than just cute
Oh,
artwork.
definitely way more.
They're little glimpses into a child's heart and mind.
Precisely.
I remember when my nephew was little, he would draw these incredibly detailed pictures of monsters with like big teeth and fiery eyes.
Oh, wow.
And at the time, I just thought they were cool drawings. Like every kid draws monsters.
Right.
But now looking back, I'm realizing that those drawings were probably his way of processing some big, scary feelings that he didn't have the words for yet.
Exactly. That's a perfect example of how kids use art to externalize their emotions, especially those big, overwhelming feelings like anger or fear.
Yeah, it's like they're putting those emotions outside of themselves onto the paper where they can see them and maybe even control them a little bit.
And it makes sense if you think about it, because for a child who might not yet have the vocabulary to articulate what they're experiencing, art becomes a powerful tool for expression.
So instead of saying, I'm angry, they might draw a picture of a furious storm with like jagged lines and dark colors.
Exactly. And that visual representation allows them to communicate that emotion in a way that feels safe and manageable.
That's so interesting. So it's not just about expressing the emotion, it's also about helping them to cope with it.
Absolutely. And here's the really cool part. The act of creating art actually has a physiological effect on the brain.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. When children engage in art activities, their brains release hormones like dopamine and serotonin.
Wait, those are the feel-good hormones.
You got it, right? They're the ones that give us that sense of calm and happiness.
So they're literally getting a mood boost from creating art.
Exactly. It's like their own little self-soothing mechanism built right in.
Wow, I had no idea there was an actual chemical reaction happening in their brains. That's amazing. But it's not just about those big explosive emotions like anger or sadness, right?
Not at all.
I mean, my niece loves to color, and she'll spend hours just meticulously filling in coloring books.
And that's fantastic. Even those seemingly simple activities offer tremendous benefits for kids.
Like what?
Well, for starters, coloring can be incredibly meditative. It
Oh,
helps them to focus their attention and be present in the moment.
it's like hitting the pause button on all that mental chatter that we all experience.
Exactly. And it's not just about relaxation. There's also a sense of accomplishment that comes with completing a coloring page.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That feeling of, I did it,
Yeah.
can do wonders for their self-esteem and helps them to develop a belief in their own abilities.
So they're learning valuable life skills while they're coloring inside the lines.
Exactly.
It's amazing how much we can learn about kids just by paying attention to their art. Like you said, it's like a window into their world. But it's not just about understanding their emotions, right?
Right.
Art can also play a huge role in helping them develop resilience.
Absolutely. And that's such an important life skill, right? The ability to bounce back from setbacks and keep going.
Totally. Because let's face it, life is full of challenges, and we want our kids to be able to handle whatever comes their way.
Exactly. And art can actually help them build that resilience in a few ways.
Like how?
Well, for one thing, when kids are engaged in creative activities, they're constantly problem solving.
Oh, that's true. I never thought about it like
Right.
that.
Yeah, they're experimenting with different materials, trying new techniques, and figuring out what works and what doesn't.
And they're not afraid to make mistakes.
Exactly. In fact, mistakes are encouraged in art because that's how we learn and grow.
So it's like a safe space for them to try new things, fail, and then get back up and try again.
Precisely. And those experiences, those little failures and triumphs, they all contribute to building resilience.
So it's like they're building up a toolbox of skills that they can use not just in art, but in other areas of their lives too.
Exactly. And speaking of skills, art also plays a big role in developing emotional intelligence.
Emotional intelligence.
Yeah, it's all about being aware of and managing your own emotions and being able to recognize and understand the emotions of others.
Oh, okay, I've heard of that. But how does art help with that?
Well, think about it. When a child creates a piece of art, they're putting their own emotions out there for the world to see.
Even if it's just a drawing of their family or a painting of a tree.
Exactly. They're expressing themselves, and in doing so, they're becoming more aware of their own feelings.
And when they share their art with others, they're inviting conversation and connection.
Precisely. They're saying, hey, this is how I feel. What do you think?
And that opens the door for empathy and understanding.
Exactly. And as they learn to express their own emotions through art, they also become more attuned to the emotions being expressed through other people's art.
So it's like this beautiful cycle of self-awareness and empathy.
Precisely. And that's what emotional intelligence is all about.
This is all so fascinating, and it makes me realize how important it is to encourage and support kids' artistic expression.
Absolutely. Because it's more than just a fun activity.
Right. It's essential for their emotional well-being and their development as well-rounded individuals.
I couldn't agree more.
So how can we as parents, caregivers, and educators create an environment that nurtures that creativity? I mean, do we need to turn our homes into mini art studios?
Well, it certainly wouldn't hurt to have some art supplies on hand, but you don't need anything fancy.
So it's more about the atmosphere than the materials.
Exactly. It's about creating a space where kids feel safe and supported to express themselves without judgment or criticism.
So no harsh critiques of their artwork.
Definitely not. Remember, it's about the process, not the product.
So how can we create that kind of environment?
Well, one simple way is to set up a dedicated art space for kids. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, even just a corner in the living room or a spot at the kitchen table where they can spread out their supplies and get messy without worrying about making a mess.
I like that, a designated creative zone.
Exactly. And make sure they have access to a variety of art material.
Like what kind of stuff?
Oh, the basics, crayons, markers, paint, paper, clay, things like that. And don't be afraid to get creative with it, too.
So think outside the crayon box.
Exactly. You could use things like recycled materials or objects from nature to create art. Let their imaginations run wild.
That's a great idea. It's all about encouraging that sense of exploration and experimentation.
Precisely. And another important tip is to be responsive to their creative efforts. Notice when they create something new and acknowledge their work.
So instead of just saying, oh, that's nice, honey, we should be more specific.
Exactly. Try asking open-ended questions about their art. Like, tell me about your drawing. What's happening in this picture?
I see. So it's about showing a genuine interest in their creations and trying to understand the world through their eyes.
Absolutely. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is just listen and observe.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about when a child's art seems to be expressing something more serious? Like what if their drawings are particularly dark or disturbing?
That's a great question. And it's important to remember that art can be a way for kids to process difficult emotions. So if you're noticing a pattern of troubling themes in their art, it's definitely worth reaching out to a professional for guidance.
So like a therapist or counselor.
Exactly. They can help you to understand what your child might be trying to communicate through their art and provide support and resources to address any underlying issues.
That's really helpful to know because sometimes it can be hard to know when to be concerned and when to just let kids be kids.
Absolutely. And that's why it's always a good idea to err on the side of caution. If you're ever unsure about something, don't hesitate to reach out for professional help.
That's great advice. And speaking of professional help, we've been talking a lot about art as a form of self-expression and emotional regulation, but it can also be a powerful therapeutic tool, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Art therapy is a specialized field that uses the creative process to improve mental health and well-being.
So how does that work exactly?
Well, it involves working with a trained art therapist who uses art materials and techniques to help clients explore their emotions, process experiences, and develop coping mechanisms.
So it's not just about creating pretty pictures, it's about using art as a way to heal and grow.
Precisely. Art therapy can be beneficial for people of all ages and backgrounds, but it can be particularly helpful for children who have experienced trauma or who have difficulty expressing themselves verbally.
That makes sense. Because art provides a way for them to communicate and process their experiences in a non-threatening and accessible way.
Exactly. And the great thing about art therapy is that you don't need to be good at art to benefit from it.
It's more about the process than the product.
Exactly.
This has been such an incredibly insightful conversation, and I think it's so important to remember that art isn't just something we do for fun or entertainment. It's a fundamental part of what makes us human.
I couldn't agree more.
It allows us to express ourselves, connect with others, and make sense of the world around us.
It's a powerful tool for healing, growth, and transformation.
Exactly. So the next time you see a child lost in a world of crayons and imagination, remember that you're witnessing something truly special.
You really are.
You're witnessing the power of art to unlock their emotions, foster their creativity, and help them blossom into the amazing individuals they were born to be. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the incredible world of art and children's emotions. We'll see you next time.